This is Money Made Simple, the financial podcast that keeps it simple and gets to the point.
Kia ora and welcome back to Money Made Simple, brought to you by Simplicity. So this is part 2 of our episode on tackling the cost of living crisis. Hi Jenny.
Hi Liv.
So this time we're flipping the conversation, right, from cutting costs, which can be hard and might seem a little bit negative, to how you can actually find ways to increase your income. So maybe that could prevent you from actually having to cut more costs.
Yeah. Exactly. And I just wanted to add before we get started, I've been kind of reflecting about the conversation that we had last week about cutting costs. And, you know, it's really tough out there for everyone, including small local businesses, right? So I was thinking, if you are going to spend money, if you have a special occasion and you want to go out for dinner or you're looking to,
your treats, right?
Yeah.
That we talked about.
Then think about supporting local businesses. Go to a local cafe or restaurant or a local retail store. Avoid the big box stores and really support locals. Yeah.
Maybe think about those that are doing it tough as well from a commercial point of view.
Exactly.
Love it. Cool. Okay, so let's dive in to ways that you can increase your income. So again, these might seem a little bit obvious, but they're worth thinking about, right?
I think so, yes.
Cool. So number 1, freelancing and side gigs.
Yeah, so lots of us have all sorts of skills that we've developed over our working life.
Oh, many, many years.
Yeah, so if you have the opportunity to utilise some of those skills to earn some extra money, this is a great way to do it. Maybe you're a graphic designer or you're a copywriter or you've been a tutor in the past.
Mm-hmm. If you're a good mathematician.
Exactly,
Yep.
And you can find some kids that need a bit of help. These could be jobs that you do for a short period of time or a term or, just a period, but they fit around whatever else you've got going on. Even things like ride-sharing services, like if you're able to do a bit of work in the evenings or...
If you're a really good driver.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few platforms, right? Big global platforms, but that are here in New Zealand, like Upwork or Fiverr or Freelancer, I think.
Yeah.
So you can jump on there and kind of set yourself up. Personally, I don't use those, but I teach yoga on the side. Although from a monetary point of view, it doesn't make total sense. Like you get paid for an hour of teaching and you spend quite a number of hours outside of that preparing and being there for students and whatnot.
So your hourly rate might not be great, but I'm guessing you do it more for the love of it.
Yeah. Some of our side hustles can be more for the passion. Some can be more for helping us tackle the cost of living. So, we'll move on from that. Another one is part-time jobs. So you could look for a part-time job that has, say, flexible hours that can fit around that primary job.
Yeah, so that would be a bit more of a permanent situation, right? Like the freelancing or side hustles are they're going to be shorter term, but this would be actually looking to set up a regular bit of work.
If you have the space in your life to do it, I don't think people like you maybe have the space.
Definitely don't. But in that situation, is secondary tax an issue?
No, that's a bit of a myth.
Oh.
I mean, so the more you earn, the more tax you pay. So that's where people get confused. So I looked this up because the government has actually labelled it as a common misconception. So basically they say it's commonly believed that secondary tax is unfair because tax is deducted from a second job at a higher rate than their first job. That's not actually true. So it's actually, you might be taxed higher due to the progressivity of the income tax system.
Big word, Liv.
Yes, I know. I was trying to say that properly. So it's not about it being a second job. So if you've got a pay rise or a bonus or anything like that, if that puts you up into the next income bracket, you'd be paying higher tax.
Yeah, right.
It's not about the fact that you've got a second income.
Okay, so secondary tax doesn't exist.
It does exist. There's a tax code,
right?
But it's so that the IRD can help work out what that tax should be. Does it push you up into a next income bracket?
So it shouldn't stop you getting a second job?
No.
Okay.
Unless you also never want to increase your income in your primary job or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Cool. Number 3.
Monetize your hobbies.
I like this one.
Yeah, I do too, because it means that you're doing something that you already enjoy doing. So we're thinking this is more for the crafty types, I guess.
Not a me.
Yeah. So anyone that's knitting or sewing or making beautiful things, you might be able to sell those on Felt, which is like the New Zealand Etsy.
Oh, yeah.
Or there's loads of local fairs and like craft markets and things that you could look at. So if you've got a hobby and you're good at something, this might be a little...
Yeah, we've got someone here who makes their own clothes, right?
Yeah, we do. I don't think he does it to sell.
But maybe we should encourage him in this cost of living crisis.
Maybe he could make us some clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Number 4, online selling. So if you have unused items around the house, maybe you're a bit of a compulsive shopper, you could sell them on Trade Me or on Facebook marketplace.
Yeah, I think this is a really good one because even if you're not getting what you paid for it, you're getting more than it's sitting in the garage, right?
Exactly.
It's not earning you any money there. It's a really good one for people with kids because kids grow fast and go through things really quickly. And so I've definitely sold baby stuff and clothes and all sorts of things. I also buy a lot of secondhand things to save money.
Great. That's what we like from a cost of living, keeping the cost
Yeah,
down.
exactly. And it's good from an environmental perspective, things getting used for their full life and all that sort of stuff. So that's just an all-round good
a whole
one.
lot of win-wins.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. The next one we have on our list is the possibility of renting out a room in your home if you have a spare room.
Yes. And so this is more for homeowners rather than people that are renting. But yeah, so say for my husband and I, we have a 3-bedroom house, but we have only two of us.
The cats have a room each.
The cats do not. So there's 4 of us, but only 2 humans.
Okay.
So ever since we bought our house, 6 years ago, we've had a flatmate in almost all that time. So we've had 3 lots of flatmates, and it really helps us pay off that mortgage. For us, at the moment, it brings in an extra $250 a week.
Yeah, so that's also covering some of the bills and things too, right? Sharing that
Exactly.
between more people.
Yeah, exactly. So I know it can be a pretty hard concept to get your head around, but for us, it was almost like we couldn't go back because we
Have
now
got quite used to that.
Yeah, we need that extra
additional
income.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. So think about that if you've got a bit of space. It might not be something you have to do forever.
Yeah,
right?
no.
You do it for a period of time.
One more thing kind of related to that, and this is a bit of an odd one and maybe a bit more complex, but if you've bought a house and you have bought a bigger house than what you need right now, it's kind of your future proofing, could you rent that out and then you go and rent somewhere that's more, I guess, right-sized for your situation at the time?
Okay.
So there's probably some complexities in terms of it then being treated from a tax perspective as an investment property, but in the way that cost of living is quite high, you've got a house that's way too big for you, but you know that it's, you bought it because it's for your future family or whatever. Yeah, you could consider maybe
renting a 1-bedroom for
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
while and renting out your 3 or 4-bedroom place.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
something
maybe
to look into.
Yeah, exactly. Something to explore, but probably some complexities there.
Cool. Well, the last thing we have on our list is that maybe you use this time to invest in the future by upskilling yourself. So you're looking to increase your income in the longer term. So you might do an online course or obtain a new certification or qualification, which down the line is going to lead to higher paid work.
Or side hustles.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The good thing about this is if you're already working, this might be something that your workplace will support if you
Yes.
want to do a bit of professional development, particularly if it's valuable in the work that you're already doing.
Or if they're just a great employer and they support your professional development.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a sort of longer term one.
Yeah, cool. And what about, I guess, the right now, if you're really struggling? We talked about the fact that we would provide some resources and where you can get support, right?
Yes. New Zealand has quite a lot of government support programs. I know that we whinge about the government, but actually we live in a country where there is a real
Wraparound.
quite a
support system, right?
comprehensive support network out there. So to start with, I think it's worth checking that you're getting any government support that you might be entitled to. So working for families is a good example of that. If you're looking for work, you might be eligible for the job seeker support.
And that's from WINS, right?
Yep, from Work and Income. And you may also qualify, even if you are working, for the accommodation supplement, which can help with the cost of rent or board, or even your mortgage.
So you might even be eligible.
If you need it.
Okay.
And WINS can also make some one-off grants for sort of urgent or unexpected costs around food, medical costs, emergency housing, that kind of thing. So
And we're not an expert in this, right?
no, we are definitely not. So we'd recommend that you check out the Work and Income website to work out what sort of support is available there.
Cool. Studying, I think, is a good one. So if you're a student, you probably are already aware of this, or even if you're considering retraining or upskilling during this time, then you could still be eligible for a student allowance or at least a loan to help you with living costs and tuition fees and the cost of books and whatnot.
Yeah. And then at the complete other end of the spectrum, maybe you're retired.
So for all those retirees
Yep.
listening in.
In which case, or maybe you know a retiree and you can make sure that they're getting what they're entitled to. Make sure you're using your Super Gold card, which provides discounts and concessions on quite a broad range of services.
And public transport is free, even the Waiheke ferry.
The Waiheke Ferry. Lucky them. And then another one to consider is a KiwiSaver hardship withdrawal. And obviously we've spoken about this in past episodes and wouldn't suggest this option lightly because of the longer term impact of taking your long-term savings out.
Yes.
But it was designed to be used if people are facing significant financial hardship. So it can be necessary in some circumstances.
Yes, and the other option that we talked about in that previous episode was taking a savings suspension, like taking a break from contributing to KiwiSaver if you need that little bit more income.
Yeah, and the real pity about that is that you then lose the employer contribution.
Yes.
While you're taking a break.
All of these things have consequences,
Yeah.
but worth checking out if you need to.
So that's kind of the more sort of formal or government support that's available. There are also loads of community resources. We have a very active kind of civic community in New Zealand, which is awesome. So even small towns will have a Citizens Advice Bureau, which provides free, confidential and completely independent advice on lots of different issues, including financial difficulties.
Yep.
And if you actually need legal advice, then community law centres can provide that sort of support, particularly around financial hardship and debt.
Cool. There's other community organisations, right, such as the Salvation Army or the City Mission.
Yeah, and they are great for like in the moment need in terms of they'll put food parcels together. They often have a community kitchen, so you can go and get a hot meal.
Yeah, like the Hairata Kitchen that's in Auckland and the City Mission.
Right. And then there's budgeting services. So some of those might sit within some of the organisations that we've already talked about, but there's others around. You can look up the New Zealand Federation of Family Budgeting Services, and there's
quite a mouthful.
there's options all over the country, and they provide free budgeting advice and financial planning support. So really good if you're like, right, what I need to do is get my budget in order. That's the main thing I want to do. Then you could go and get some free advice.
And then food banks, which we've already covered a little bit via City Mission and Sally Army. But basically, there's loads of community-run services around, not just the big ones, but in smaller towns that provide food parcels and food to those in need.
In my hometown, there's a really cool, it's just called the Pantry, and people can leave their surplus things from their garden and all sorts of things, and it's just open to anybody to go and help themselves to the food in there. There are some specific services like Māori and Pacifica services that specialise in offering support and resources that are tailored to Māori or Pacific communities, and this would be the same for other communities around New Zealand as well.
And then kind of related to that, local councils. So many local councils offer things like emergency grants, rates rebates if you can't afford to pay your rates at the time, and other forms of support for their residents that are facing financial hardship.
Yeah, so there's lots of options here of things that you might be able to get a little bit of release from the pressure that you're feeling, even temporarily. And whether that's you or someone you know, reaching out to any one of these organisations might be a good first step.
Yeah, cool. All right, so any final thoughts? Any further things that have come up in your head as we're talking?
Well, I did think about, we said this was going to be like a happy, sunshiny episode, didn't we? A couple of weeks ago. And I don't feel like it's been as happy and sunshiny as we promised. But one lovely thing that we can do is share more. So I was talking before about surplus things from your garden going into the pantry in my hometown. If you have anything spare, share it. So that might be food, it might be baking that you can give to people in hospital or at hospices. There's all sorts of groups that will facilitate that kind of thing.
Yep. Or if you don't have spare food, but you're doing okay at the moment, maybe consider donating money or just your time to a charity that helps struggling families. So like we talked about the Hairata Kitchen from City Mission, they are always looking for volunteers to help cook the breakfasts for anyone that needs it.
That's a great idea that you can give of your time, not just things.
It
you
doesn't
can actually
have to cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was cool. If you remember in part 1, we talked about the fact that New Zealanders are actually giving more to charity, even though things are tough. So there's a real generous spirit in New Zealand. And
So
I think
keep it going.
I think
Encourage
that's
it to be more.
awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so these suggestions that we've made in this 2-part episode around how to reduce costs, increase your income, access support, a lot of them are about your life right now, right?
Yes.
So paying the bills and looking after our families right now. But it's worth just making sure that you are not forgetting to keep your eyes on the future too.
Absolutely. Like it's really easy to make decisions right now without considering the impact that that will have. The KiwiSaver hardship withdrawal is a good example of that. So if you can, when you're looking at your budget, if you have a line for savings in there, like if you can keep doing that, then that is awesome. Whether it's KiwiSaver or via other means, if you can keep saving through these tough tough times, you'll be in a much better place when things start to improve.
Yes, and that's the time to set yourself up for next time. So make sure you set up that rainy day fund, invest in the things that might make your house more energy efficient. So that could be insulating or double glazing or even putting in solar panels.
Yeah, that's a really good point. When things are better, you can do things that are going to save you money.
Future-proof,
Yes, further
right?
down the line. Yep.
Yes. And also take care of yourself. So things like regular checkups and making sure that you're living healthily, those can actually prevent costly medical expenses in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully we've shared some useful information and tips, and some of these might actually be lifestyle changes. They might not just be a quick fix.
Yes, but don't be overwhelmed by all of these different things that you could or should do. Maybe just start with one simple change and go from there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any ideas that we haven't covered, because we don't think that we know everything, we would love to hear from you. You can contact us on social. Just look us up, Simplicity.
Or email us, info@simplicity.kiwi.
It'd be really great to hear any ideas, and then we can look to share them via our various channels.
In that spirit of sharing, right?
Yes. And we know that everyone's personal situations are different, and that some people will be doing it a lot tougher than others at the moment. But we hope that rather than focusing on how tough things are, we can focus on what we can do about it.
Yes. And so we will put a whole lot of links in the show notes in terms of those resources we've mentioned. So yeah, go and check them out if you or someone that you know needs them.
Cool.
So what's coming up next time?
Well, you know us, we hate jargon.
Basic bitches, right?
That we are. So we thought we'd discuss some of the jargon that you might have heard when it comes to the financial industry and break it down for you. This is a knowledge is power kind of situation. If we can understand that jargon, then we can make better informed decisions for ourselves. So we're going to talk about dividends and hedging and assets.
All that boring stuff,
I
right?
know, but it won't be boring. It'll be fascinating.
All right, well, looking forward to next time, and thanks for tuning in.
Ka kite.
Bye. This podcast contains personal opinions and is intended to provide educational information only. It doesn't relate to your particular financial situation or goals and is not financial advice or recommendations. Simplicity New Zealand Limited is the issuer of the Simplicity KiwiSaver scheme and investment funds. For product disclosure statements, please visit Simplicity's website, simplicity.kiwi.